Hi and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh everyone. So today we are going to present our case study review with the topic of the Singlish contribute to Singaporeans' national identity and do Singaporeans support formal recognition. So this is the group members, starting with me, Muhammad Amir Munif, Nur Fatin, Nurul Idayu, and Dayang Nuzahra. So for the introduction, Singlish, a colloquial form of English spoken in Singapore, has been a topic of debate regarding its contribution to Singaporeans' national identity. The question of whether Singlish plays a role in shaping Singaporean identity and whether Singaporeans support its formal recognition has garnered attention from researchers in various fields. So this case study reviews aims to explore the relationship between Singlish and Singaporean national identity, drawing on relevant literature and research. Alright, moving on to our first perspective, the sociological approach. As outlined by Alsagoff in 2010, this lens considers language in terms of culture, capital, identity, and politics. In the context of Singapore, researchers have explored the variation of English and its connection to the intricate tapestry of Singaporean identity. Shifting gears to the linguistic perspective, scholars such as Hu in 2023 have delved into the hybridities of class, race, and also language, including the Singaporeanness in relation to Singlish. This exploration sheds light on socio-political dynamics surrounding Singlish and its role in shaping the identity of Singaporeans itself. As we synthesize this perspective, our case study review aims to provide a comprehensive understanding of the role Singlish plays in shaping Singaporean identity. By delving into existing literature and research, we seek to gauge the level of support for the formal recognition of Singlish. Next is we will embark on a journey into the intricate relationship between language and national identity, which a topic that has been explored in diverse contexts. In the context of Singapore, our focus is on Singlish, a colloquial form of English, and its role in shaping Singaporean national identity, an engaging subject that sparks considerable debate, like I said before, so that we can truly grasp the significance of Singlish. We need to delve into the socio-cultural, linguistic, and political factors at play. Now, let's zoom in on some key perspectives that illuminate this complex relationship. So the first one is socio-linguistic perspective. In understanding the role of Singlish, we first consider language as intricately woven into culture, identity, and politics. Researchers have delved into English variation in Singapore, unveiling the socio-political dynamics surrounding Singlish. Next is the linguistic landscape. Our linguistic journey extends to tangible expressions of identity. The naming of mass rapid transits or MRT stations reflect Singapore's linguistic landscape, borrowing names from historical context and intricately adding layers to Singaporean identity. Now we're moving on to the perception of Singlish. The narrative surrounding Singlish is nuanced, impacting perceptions of language and economic competitiveness. Singlish is perceived as a potential threat to Standard English and Singapore's competitiveness. Simultaneously, it is celebrated as a unique cultural aspect of Singaporean identity itself. Other than that is the broader context of identity. To comprehend this intricate relationship, we broaden our scope to encompass national and ethnic identity in Singapore. Studies on social representations of history in Singapore and Malaysia shed light on the interplay between national ethnic identity, which provides us invaluable insights into identity construction. Last but not least is the comprehensive analysis. The relationship between Singlish and also Singaporean national identity is a captivating and multifaceted exploration that demands a thorough examination of socio-cultural, linguistics, and political factors. As we navigate through the socio-linguistic perspective, explore the linguistic landscape, reconcile conflicting narratives, and consider the broader landscape context of national and ethnic identity, our case study review aspires to provide comprehensive understanding of Singlish role in shaping Singaporean identity and gauge the level of support for its formal recognition. So that's all for the background of the case study. Moving on to the next part.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Fatin and I'll be presenting for summary and findings. So firstly, I want to apologize for the setup because I have problem with my front camera. So let's move on. Alright, for the summary, this case study for this article, it heavily focuses on the English language used by Singaporeans, basically between Standard English and also the Singlish one. So as I said, the colloquial form of Singlish and also Standard English. So in this case study, the author focuses on the quantitative method where he used a questionnaire survey on the usage of Singlish to a total of 82 Singaporean adults. So in this summary, basically they talk about the comparison of standard Singapore English and the English language itself, and the erosion of linguistic capital versus the erosion of national identity. And then it goes to government advocates for the proper use of English, while officials frequently use Creole to connect with the common people. And then we have the collected data that were taken by the research will inform the policy makers about the diagnostic situation in Singapore. Next, we have the Singapore's language policy, which influenced by the global economic access and a diverse population designated for official languages in the 1970s. Then we have the second language education, which is compulsory to promote cultural heritage and also economic benefits. So they have a between these two languages. And then we have the Speak Good English movement that have mentioned by the author, also called as TEM. It's a Singapore government campaign launched in 2000 to promote grammatically correct English, a response to popularization of Singlish. And then we have Singaporeans are often confused about the significance of Singlish. Next, we have, despite the government discouragement and stigmatization, many Singlish supporters feel pride in its ability to connect with the masses and bring them closer together. Between these two, Standard English and also Singlish, there's debate between those two. There were times people used that Singlish and between the Standard English. Now, moving on the findings. In this case study, like I have mentioned before, is a quantitative method by using questionnaire survey. There are 26 multiple choice questions from 6 parts, and it is given to 82 participants of Singaporeans. So in the findings, the author separated into 3, which is based on the 3 research questions stated by the author. So the first research question is, when do Singapore usually speak English? The second one is, what do Singaporeans think of Singlish? And also the research question 3 is, what do Singaporeans think the government should do with Singlish? So for the first questions, the author straight up put the title which is the first research question, and then put the findings, which is a table with the percentage of the participants' answer. So first of all, for the first research question, there are parts 2, 3, and also 4, where it investigates the language choices of the participants. So for the part 2, it is to find whether the choices given were influenced by formality dimensions. So basically, the question asks about the language choices of the participant on the formality dimension. Now, these are like the questions given. So the first one is the language choices at home. There were the answers presented by the author in the table told that most of the participants choose second language, which is 49 participants. So for second language, it's basically they are speaking in Malay, Tamil, and Chinese rather than standard English. And then for the second one, we have Singlish with 18% and standard English with 50% as the third one. The next one is the language choices at workplace or under study. So majority of the participants choose standard English by 55%, and then follow up with Singlish, 15 participants, and also second language, 12 participants. For the next one, the languages choices at a formal situation. So this one, all of the 82 participants choose standard English. However, for the next question, which is the informal situation of the choices, 66 participants choose Singlish, which is more than the rest of the two answers given by other participants, which is the second one is second language by 11 participants, and 5 participants choose standard English. Now, for part 3, the question given is to find out language choices when the participant talks with people of different statuses. So it focuses on the same race and also the different race to the participant. For example, question number 1 is the language choices of the participant when talking with classmates or colleagues of the same race. So 40 of the participants choose Singlish, which is the highest number of the answer, and then it follow up the second language, which is 28%, and also 14 participants choose standard English. Next, we have the language choices with classmate or colleague with different race. So this one, there's only 2 answers given by all of the participants, with Singlish being 58 participants and also standard English with 24 participants. Next, we have language choices with teachers or superiors of the same race. So majority of the participants, 77 participants, choose standard English rather than Singlish. And then we have language choices with teachers and superiors of different race. So these have the same exact numbers and also answers. Next, we're moving on to part 4, which is to find out the language choices based on social distance. So this is focuses on the same structure as the previous part 3, which is between the same race or the different race. So for the first question, it is focuses on the language choices with friends of the same race. So the majority of the participants choose second language, which is 40 participants in total, followed by Singlish, 28 participants, and also standard English for 14 participants. For the next question, it was the same structured question, but with different race of friends. So in this one, 65 participants choose Singlish instead, and only 17 participants choose standard English. There is no use of or answers about second language at all for these particular questions. For the next 2 questions, it is language choices with acquaintance of the same race. So 45 participants choose standard English. They answer for standard English, and followed by Singlish with 25 participants, and also 12 participants answer second language. For the next one, language choices with acquaintance of the different race, majority of 54 participants choose standard English instead, and 28 participants chose Singlish. The remaining two questions is language choices with strangers of the same race. So for this particular question, a total of 54 participants choose to speak, to communicate with second language, followed by Singlish, 15 participants, and also standard English with 13 participants. And then for the last question is with the same one, language choices with strangers but with different race. For this one, 65 participants choose to speak and communicate with standard English, and only 17 participants choose to speak with Singlish. That is all for research question number 1. For research question number 2, the author focuses on the search how participants generally view and feel about Singlish. So this of particular importance is learning whether the Singaporeans believe that Singlish, despite being a language that has been officially discouraged as a creolized language, adds to the country's identity. So the first question is whether the Singaporeans think Singlish as the dialect of English or broken English. So between these two, a total of 43 participants agreed that Singlish is a broken English, while the other 39 participants regard it as dialect of English. For the second question is investigate generally how Singaporeans feel about Singlish, and 48 participants, the majority one feels quietly proud about it, while there are 26 participants who openly proud of it, and only 8 participants feel ashamed when talking about Singlish. This is particularly because they feel it's broken. And then for the third question is how do the Singaporeans feel when a fellow Singaporean speak Singlish with them. So there are 3 answers on this one that the participant give, which is a total of 44 participants feels it is heartwarming, while the other 30 participants feel familiar, and the 8 participants, the rest, feel indifferent. And lastly, the question for this question number 2, the author asks whether do Singlish contributes to Singapore's national identity. So basically this is a yes, no and not sure questions. A total of 68 participants answered yes, and 8% answered not sure, and only 6 participants give an answer of a no for the questions. And then for the third research question, the author tried to find out the Singaporeans talk on what do the government should do with Singlish. So there is a total of 2 questions for this part, which is the first one is, does Singlish should be made as an official language in Singapore? So this is the yes no answers one, which 68 participants actually disagree, which they say no, and 11 participants say they are not sure, and only 3 participants answered yes. There's a lot of people who doesn't want Singlish to be an official language of Singapore. And then for the last one is, what do the participants, the Singaporean participants, think that Singapore government should do with Singlish? So basically in this one there are 3 answers. The first one that got the majority, most of the answer will be promote standard English, but they can freely use the usage of Singlish. A total of 75 participants. It follows up with a total of 4 participants, and only 3 participants agreed on promoting Singlish, but alongside incorporated with standard English. So that is all for the findings. Move on to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurul Idayu and I will be presenting the critique of the study. So, Singapore English is Singlish is seen by many Singaporeans as being fundamental to their cultural identity. It acts as a linguistic link between the many ethnic populations, reflecting the Singapore's multicultural and multilingual nature. In addition to being a language of communication, Singlish conveys humor, cultural subtleties, and a sense of familiarity among Singaporeans. Singaporean English, Singlish, is extensively used and accepted in casual contexts, but whether or not it should be considered a formal language has been up for discussion. So, according to some, formal acknowledgement may contribute to the celebration and preservation of Singapore's distinct linguistic identity. Some, on the other hand, worry that officially supporting Singlish could have an adverse effect on standard English ability, which is essential for professional and academic communication. So, according to Lim 2010, Singlish is inescapable byproduct of Singapore's linguistic past, and eradicating it would be pointless. Next is the colonial influence, the history of the English language evolution in Singapore, particularly in terms of colonial influence, is marked by a series of historical developments. During the colonial period 1819 until 1963, Singapore was founded as a British trading post in 1819 by Sir Stamford Raffles. Thus, they followed the British colonial rule. So during that time, English became the language of administration and governance during the British colonial rule. Initially, English was primarily used among the British colonial administrators among the general population. During the World War II, Singapore fell under Japanese occupation 1942 until 1945, disrupting the colonial order and temporarily altering the language dynamics. The Japanese occupation had a significant impact on the linguistic landscape, but English regained prominence after the war when the British rule was restored. The original languages of Singapore were diverse and reflected the multicultural and multiracial composition of the population before the arrival of the British and the establishment of Singapore as a British trading post in 1819. The region was inhabited by various indigenous communities and immigrant groups. The original language spoken in Singapore were primarily those of the indigenous people and the early wave of immigrants. So the major languages included the Malay, Mandarin, and also Tamil language. Malay has a long-standing historical presence in the region and was spoken by the indigenous Malay population. It has continued to be a significant language in Singapore and was later chosen as one of the official languages of the country. So, in addition, the Chinese community, which has been a prominent ethnic group in Singapore for centuries, brought Mandarin as one of their primary languages. Various Chinese dialects were also spoken among different Chinese ethnic groups. Also, the Indian community, particularly those of Tamil descent, contributed to the linguistic diversity of Singapore by bringing Tamil as one of their languages. So Tamil remains an important language in the Indian community. These original languages, along with the other indigenous languages and dialects spoken by smaller ethnic groups, form the linguistic landscapes of Singapore before the arrival of the British. The British colonial period had a significant impact on language dynamics, eventually leading to the promotion of English as a language of administration and governance. Over time, this historical and linguistic diversity has shaped Singapore's unique cultural and linguistic identity. Next is the internal need for maintaining racial diversity, Singapore's internal dynamics. The Singapore's internal dynamics characterized by a racially diverse population and have a considerable influence on language policies. In acknowledgement of the linguistic diversity within its population, the Singaporean government designated English, Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil as the nation's 4 official languages based on Chung 2008. Singaporean society is well known for its wide diversity of ethnicities and cultures. The recognition of the nation's diversity has been a crucial factor in its advancement. In response to this variety, the Singaporean government, led by Lee Kuan Yew, took a significant steps to ensure that language laws honor and accurately represented the various ethnic groups that comprise the nation. Additionally, as mentioned in Lee 2012, Lee Kuan Yew's requirement for bilingualism highlights the internal importance of linguistic policies. The emphasis on people speaking both their native tongue and English fluently was a deliberate strategy to promote a sense of cultural affiliation, and it was not only a question of education. The language policies were designed not just to facilitate communication, but also to safeguard the cultural heritage of each ethnic group. So since English was the most widely spoken language, it aided in bridging the gap in communication between the different cultures. So the ability to maintain ties to one's cultural roots through the use of Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil simultaneously ensured that traditions, identities, and values would be preserved for upcoming generations. And that is all from me. Thank you.
So thank you, Ayu, for the great explanation about the critics on the case study of this particular topic. So now we're going to move on in the same topic, but under the different aspect. So I will be going to present on the government response and the code switchings that happened in Singapore. Okay, so the first one is the appeal of Singlish. So Greece observation in 2016 suggests that attempts to suppress Singlish may have inadvertently contributed to its appeal. This is a common phenomenon where resistance of authority can lead to the embrace of a particular language or dialect as a symbol of cultural identity and authenticity. Singlish, in this context, might be seen as a form of linguistic resistance against imposed norms. So, however, according to the government, acquiring standard English might be difficult because not all speakers can easily switch between Singlish and standard English. This was mentioned by Chang in 2016. The next one is the political use of Singlish. The fact that politicians and government representatives use Singlish despite formal discouragement indicates an acknowledgement of its effectiveness as a communicative tool. So this dual approach might stem from a recognition that Singlish resonates with the public and can be a powerful means of connection. It also raises questions about the role of language in politics and public engagement. So, in essence, the use of Singlish by politicians in Singapore reflects the intricate interplay between language, politics, and also identity. It underscores the importance of language as a tool for connection and the need for policymakers to navigate the evolving. The next one is the coexistence and versus transition. So Tan's suggestions suggested for the coexistence of Singlish as a cultural phenomenon reflects a pragmatic view that acknowledges the cultural significance of Singlish while recognizing the importance of proficiency in standard English. Striking a balance between preserving cultural identity and meeting language proficiency standards can be challenging but might be essential for social harmony and effective communication. So basically, if you're fluent in Singlish, you must be fluent in standard English because in order to achieve proficiency in Singlish, you must have a good proficient in standard English. Right. So it kind of relates to each other. So I can say that it's Singlish are still related to standard English even though there are some of the cultural identity in Singapore English. So the next one is code switching challenges. So Chang's perspective on the difficulty of transitioning between Singlish and Standard English touches on the concept of code switching. So while code switching is a common linguistic phenomenon, the government's concern about the ease of this transition is rooted in practical considerations, especially in domains like business and international communication, where proficiency in standard English is often deemed essential. So, in a country like Malaysia or Singapore, for you to become a bilingual person, you must have influenced you to code switching between any two language. It can be Chinese to English, or English to Malay, or Tamil to English. It could be any way, or the opposite way. So we cannot run from these kinds of elements that actually rooted to the cultural identity of the Singlish. So code switching is actually one of the cultural identity that we can see, a part of the politicals, politicals, use of Singlish, as well as the coexistence and transition. So the next one is unintended consequences. So this is the last one. The unintended rise in the popularity of Singlish as a result of attempts to suppress it underscores the complexity of language dynamics. Language is deeply tied to cultural identity, and efforts to regulate it should be approached with sensitivity to the potential unintended consequences. So, when learning any language, one might take time to have a great proficiency of the target language. So, there must some cultural identity tied to its root in order to achieve comprehension of another language. So, there are always unintended consequences will be occurred. So that's all for our critics. So we are here in the conclusion. So, in conclusion, the case study offers valuable insights into the multifaceted relationship between Singlish and Singaporean national identity. It highlights the cultural significance of Singlish and the tensions arising from the government's attempts to regulate it. The findings also emphas- emphasize the need for nuanced language policies that balance the preservation of cultural identity with the practical requirements of effective communication in diverse contexts. So, in order to answer the question, does Singlish contribute to Singaporeans' national identity? Um, as we all know, Singlish is often regarded as unique reflections of Singapore's multicultural identity. So, yes, Singlish is contributing to Singaporeans' national identity. And another question is, do Singaporeans support formal recognition of it? Yes, I think it is, because the support for its formal recognition is divided. However, it was divided, with some viewing it as a source of cultural pride, while others express concerns about its potential impact on the language proficiency. Um, Last but not least, the dynamic interplay between the cultural authenticity and practical communication needs to continue to shape the discourse surrounding Singlish and its role in Singaporean identity. So I think that's all for now, and this is our references, and that's all for now. Thank you.